Now, one of the biggest questions in the PC community is, does RAM speed actually matter? So today I'm going to be testing in a bunch of games and benchmarks and decide once and for all, does RAM speed actually matter? Let's jump into it. In terms of the specs of my system, I've got a Ryzen 5 5600 and an AMD RX 6600 XT. So it's enough that if there is a RAM bottleneck, we'll see it and we'll see if it has any performance improvement. In terms of RAM, I'm going to be having two 8GB sticks of HyperX 3200MHz RAM, but when I'm testing lower speeds, I'll lower it down to 2133. Whoa! Let's stop the video right there. If you could, subscribe, as it really helps out the channel and I've been putting more effort into my videos. Thanks! One of the things I do have to note is that we're actually running at 2400 MHz, as my system wouldn't allow me to go anything lower than that. I think that's just because the stock speed of the RAM is 2400 MHz. Okay, so we're in Fortnite running at 1440p on Pro settings, which is everything set to low except for view distance on Epic at 1440p so that we can really put that pressure onto the CPU. So, as you can see, 156, around 160 FPS on average in the top left of the screen. Now, where it does get a little messy is the 1% and 0.1% lows. As you can see, we're sitting at 5 right now. Slowly, over time, as I play some more, it'll average out a bit better. So about 3 minutes has passed and we're now at 36 for the 1% lows and still at 5 for the 0.1%. In no way is this unplayable. We're getting over 100 FPS, 50 FPS as the 1% low, and 9 FPS as the 0.1% low. So it's actually a pretty good experience. Oh! He got dunked on. Oh, hello. I've been boxed. Watch this. Oh! Clapped on. With an average of 151 frames a second, 47 as the 1% low, and 9 as the 0.1% low, yeah, it's not a bad result. So let's go ahead and test Fortnite with 3200 MHz RAM. Alright, so we're now in Fortnite, and as you can see, we're already getting a pretty big improvement in FPS. We're sitting at around an average of 194 right now, and as we were before, we were at about 151 FPS. So it's about 25% improvement just for increasing the RAM speed. And also one thing to note is the 1% and 0.1% lows are much higher than they were before. Originally they started out at 5 and then climbed their way up, but you can see that we're already at 60 FPS at the 1% low and 15 FPS at the 0.1% low, which is very good for Fortnite. Yeah, so a really big improvement for Fortnite, especially considering the only thing that we changed was the speed of the RAM. And that just goes to show that you need to make sure that you have XMP enabled, especially with Ryzen processors, as they heavily depend on RAM. Alright, now let's see if we can go fight someone, which it appears we can. Got him! Too easy.
Nick Minute.
Now I wasn't recording, but just imagine the Kamehameha noise. Ah! So we're currently running at about high, very high settings, which is around the level of high in relation to other games. They have a weird naming scheme. And you can see that we're averaging around 69 FPS, which is pretty good. Feels a little slower and a little more stuttery than other games, but in no way is this unplayable. It's a good experience so far, and yeah, it can probably only get better. So 48 FPS is the 1% low, and 37 FPS is the 0.1% low. Yeah, no, it's a completely playable experience, especially in a game like this where you don't really need high FPS. You could honestly probably play with 30 and it would still be playable, but 60 is nice and we're getting above 60, which is very good. Now here is GTA with 3200 MHz RAM. Alright, so we're now back in GTA, and from what I can see, there's not too big of a difference in FPS that we were getting. I think we might have a little more stable of a 1% and 0.1% lows than last time, but it's really not too tangible of a difference. We're still hovering around 60 FPS. I haven't seen anything drop below 59, so that's pretty good. That's sort of where we were hovering last time. So maybe a small 5% improvement in this game. It really just depends on the title, and I think in a game like GTA, where it's a little bit older and can't take advantage of that RAM as much as a game like Fortnite could, I think potentially that could be the reason why. But again, I'll include the percentage difference and more metrics in the graph at the end of the video. In Fortnite, we saw one of the biggest performance gaps across all measurements, with a 17% improvement in average FPS, 11% in the 1% lows, and 78% in the 0.1% lows. Moving on to GTA, a 4% improvement in average, 6 in the 1% lows, and 10 in the 0.1% lows. Still a decent improvement, but a smaller one. With the two different speeds of RAM in Rainbow Six Siege, we saw around the same FPS in the average and 1%, but saw a massive 16 FPS improvement in the 0.1%. And finally, in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we pretty much saw the same results as we did with Siege. On average, the 3200 MHz RAM improved average FPS by 4%, 1% lows by 11%, and 0.1% lows by 18%. Not a bad improvement for just a little faster RAM. So yeah, that was a really impressive showing of what faster RAM can do for your system. So if you don't have XMP or DOCP enabled right now, I want you to go to your BIOS right now and turn that on so that you get that extra little bit of performance that you might be missing out on. Although if you don't or can't, well, it's not the end of the world. As you saw, it was only around 5 to 10% improvement, and that's not the end of the world at the end of the day. But you know what would be the end of the world? If you didn't subscribe after this video, because if you made it this far, you might as well. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'm TechBiz, and I'm out.